Welcome to our channel. You could be holding a nickel worth thousands and not even know it. Here's how to spot the big money Jefferson nickels. Make sure to watch till the end so you don't miss a single valuable clue. One tiny detail could turn your spare change into a collector's jackpot. In a world filled with rare coins and mysterious mint errors, few stories hold as much intrigue as that of the 1972 5-cent coin. At first glance, it looks just like any other nickel. It has Thomas Jefferson's familiar profile on the front, Monticello on the reverse, and that standard nickel weight and color we've all grown accustomed to. But the story behind one particular 1972 5-cent coin is far from ordinary. To understand its significance, we have to journey back more than 5 decades. The year was 1972, an era of bell-bottoms and vinyl records, Cold War tensions, and space race ambitions. America was undergoing a transformation, both socially and politically. The Vietnam War was still raging, but voices for peace were growing louder. The Watergate scandal had not yet broken, but political cynicism was already in the air. Amid this turbulent backdrop, millions of nickels were quietly being struck at mints across the country, coins that were meant to be spent, forgotten, lost in the churn of commerce. The design itself wasn't new. Jefferson had been featured on the nickel since 1938. By 1972, the design was considered classic, unchanging, solid, familiar. But the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were dealing with evolving technology, aging dies, and, at times, inconsistent quality control. It was in such conditions that anomalies were born, slight variations, errors that passed unnoticed through quality checks and into the hands of the American public that it wasn't immediately obvious. In fact, for years, the coin passed unnoticed through countless hands, bought candy bars, paid parking meters, maybe even sat in the back of a dusty drawer. Until one day, decades later, a collector noticed something different. A slight doubling in the date. Unusual separation in the letters. An odd crispness in the design that seemed too perfect. The coin was sent off to a grading service, and what came back confirmed the collector's suspicion: this wasn't just a regular nickel. It was something extraordinary. The coin had a rare mint error, what's known as a double die. This means the coin's design had been struck twice, slightly misaligned, creating a shadow-like effect on the surface. Double die errors are among the most sought-after anomalies in coin collecting. They represent a rare convergence of mistake and perfection, a kind of accidental art. Unlike common errors, double dies tell a story about the production process itself, a snapshot of a mechanical misstep frozen forever in metal. What made this 1972 nickel stand out even more was its condition. Despite being over 50 years old, it was in near-perfect shape. No visible scratches. No wear on the high points. Graded mint state by one of the top agencies. For a circulation coin from that era to survive in such pristine condition is already a miracle. To do so while also harboring a rare mint error. That's the numismatic equivalent of lightning in a bottle. Numismatists and historians scrambled to study the coin's every detail. Its die markers, its planchet quality, the pressure of the strike. Everything pointed to a coin that had somehow defied the odds. Word got out. Collectors talked. Dealers speculated. Was this the only one? Were there more out there? Could it have been part of a short run from a worn-out die? Or was it a test strike that somehow slipped into circulation? No one knew for sure. And that mystery only added to its allure. Soon, this unassuming coin was the star of auctions, exhibits, and magazine covers. People came from all over just to see it, to hold it, to whisper about it. Its value, once just 5 cents, rose astronomically. The buzz it created in the numismatic world was undeniable. Coin clubs debated its origins. Magazine articles were written dissecting its strike quality and mint error characteristics. Even major collectors who typically focused on ancient gold or 19th-century silver began inquiring about it. It became a conversation piece, a mystery, and a trophy all rolled into one. That the coin's story took another turn when it was featured in a special exhibit at a prominent coin show in Chicago. Under high-security glass, with soft lighting enhancing every line and flaw, it sat among other legendary pieces, but few drew as many eyes. Attendees took photos, compared notes, even tried to match up their own 1,972 nickels in hopes of discovering another like it. But none came close. The nickel went on tour, featured at numismatic museums and exhibitions across the country. It inspired a short documentary, educational programs, and even speculative fiction stories. Kids dreamed of finding their own hidden treasures in their piggy banks. Adults began checking their change more closely. What was once dismissed as pocket change was now revered as potential history. Eventually, the coin made its way to one of the world's top numismatic auction houses. The excitement leading up to the sale was palpable. Rumors swirled about the potential buyers, wealthy collectors, private museums, perhaps even a national archive. The bidding, conducted both in person and online, escalated quickly. The atmosphere in the room was electric. As seasoned collectors raised their paddles and online participants clicked in from around the world, the auctioneer's voice echoed through the hall as the bids climbed higher. Every new number brought gasps, whispers, and widened eyes. The final gavel fell with a thunderous thud. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. And in that moment, history had been made. The humble 1972 nickel, once passed over and nearly forgotten, had found its rightful place in the pantheon of great numismatic discoveries. The final price, a staggering $124,000. It serves as a powerful reminder that history doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers from the bottom of a coin jar. And sometimes, the most remarkable stories hide in the most ordinary places, like a 1972 nickel that turned out to be anything but ordinary. And so, the legend of the 1972 5-cent coin lives on, a story of error, survival, and rediscovery. A story that continues to inspire collectors, historians, and dreamers alike. Because in the world of coin collecting, the next miracle might just be in your pocket. Now we are moving to the most valuable and rare nickel, the 1983 5-cent coin. That it sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? A coin minted in the early 80s, barely noticed by the average person, never minted in silver or gold, with no commemorative flair or experimental design. It looks just like the ones tossed carelessly into candy machines, or forgotten under couch cushions. But that's the deception of it. Because this particular coin from 1983, is anything but ordinary. To understand the full weight of this mystery, we must once again remind ourselves of how coins are made, not with magic, but with mechanical precision. At least, most of the time, every coin begins as a blank disc, called a planchet. These planchets are funneled into giant presses where they are struck by engraved dies, one on each side. The pressure is immense, tens of tons applied in a fraction of a second. The dies, carved in exacting detail, imprint the portrait of Jefferson, the word liberty, the phrase "In God we trust," the year of minting, and on the reverse, the domed majesty of Monticello. In 1983, millions of these nickels were struck, most of them at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The San Francisco Mint struck only proofs, and those were never meant to be used in daily circulation. But somewhere, in that chaotic dance of metal and machine, something unexpected happened. A die, one of the tools responsible for stamping the obverse of the coin, was improperly created. During its production, it received a doubled impression of its design. That's not supposed to happen. These tools are calibrated down to fractions of a millimeter. But just like humans, machines can make mistakes. And this time, it made a masterpiece. The doubling wasn't subtle. It was bold. If you held one of these 1,983 nickels in your hand and looked closely, you'd see it immediately. The date, 1983, appeared twice, layered slightly, like a shadow had slipped behind the numbers. The word liberty had a spectral twin. Even "In God we trust" looked as if it had been spoken twice. It wasn't a printing error, not a trick of light. It was real. A true double die obverse. Now, not all double dies are valuable. Some are so minor that they require magnification and expert analysis to even identify. But this one stood out even under casual inspection. The doubling was crisp. Deliberate. It practically screamed its uniqueness. And yet, for years, almost no one noticed. It's hard to say how many of these coins escaped the mint. Maybe a handful. Maybe a few dozen. What we do know is that they vanished into circulation, indistinguishable from their countless twins. Spent. Saved. Lost. Forgotten. And then, one day, found, the first of these rare 1983 nickels surfaced at a small coin show. An amateur collector, flipping through his album, brought it to a dealer with a simple question: is this doubling normal? The dealer took one look, and his expression changed. Not shock, at first. But then, awe. A quiet recognition that something very rare had just been brought to the table. He examined the coin under a loupe, flipped it under the light, tilted it back and forth, then came the next question: where did you get this? The answer: from a box of old change my grandfather kept. And just like that, a legend was reborn. News of the coin spread quickly. Collectors began scouring their own stashes. Dealers flipped through unsorted rolls, hoping lightning would strike twice. Some did find more. But very few. And none matched the condition of that first find. That coin, once verified and authenticated, was submitted to the professional coin grading service. When the grade came back, the numismatic world blinked. MS 68 full steps, a mint state of 68 is nearly perfect. It means the coin is uncirculated, with only the tiniest marks visible under magnification. It's the kind of grade usually reserved for coins kept in pristine environments, proof sets, airtight holders, never touched by human hands. But a circulation coin. A 5-cent piece from 1983, and full steps. That was the icing on the cake. You see, Jefferson nickels have long been judged by one key detail: the steps leading up to Monticello. On most nickels, the steps are worn down or weakly struck. That's normal. But a full steps nickel displays every step clearly and cleanly, with no breaks. It's rare. It's beautiful. It's what every Jefferson nickel collector dreams of. Now imagine this: a double-die 1983 nickel, in MS 68 condition, with full steps. It's like finding a pearl inside a pearl. One rarity wrapped inside another. And it wasn't just beautiful, it was nearly unique. As word spread, collectors and investors alike took notice. The coin went to auction, and the atmosphere was electric. This wasn't just about a nickel anymore. It was about history. About rarity. About the thrill of the hunt. Bidding started modestly. Some held back, waiting to see how the room would react. But it didn't take long. The first serious bid dropped like a hammer, then another, and another. The price climbed with every minute. 10,000. 20. 45. The room buzzed, online bidders chimed in. It became a duel, an emotional standoff between passion and persistence, and when the final gavel struck, silence fell, because in that moment, a coin once worth 5 cents had been sold for a staggering $115,000. The audience applauded, not out of politeness, but reverence. Everyone knew they had witnessed something remarkable. Not just the sale of a coin, but the discovery of a legend. That one 1983 nickel now rests in a private collection, secured behind glass, admired by experts and envied by collectors. But its story continues to ripple outward, because if one exists, there could be more. They might be sitting in jars, unrecognized. Or buried in drawers, passed down through generations. Waiting to be seen. Waiting to be valued. Waiting to change someone's life. Up next is a coin that most people would never glance at twice. It isn't shiny gold or dazzling silver. It doesn't come with a commemorative case or a certificate of authenticity. No, this one is humble, modest even. Just another nickel. That's all it appears to be at first. But this one, this unassuming little coin minted in 1992 holds a secret. One that would shake the numismatic community and leave collectors stunned when they realize just how rare and valuable it truly was. It all began in an era of transition. The early 90s were a curious time. America was brimming with both change and continuity. Technology was accelerating, but not quite dominant. Politicians made big promises. Culture was shifting from the neon-soaked 80s into a more grounded, grungy realism. And while much of the world's attention was on global events, music trends, and rising stock markets, deep within the United States Mint, machines hummed along, pressing millions of nickels into existence, each one destined for pockets, purses, and payphones. Most of them were forgettable. 5 cents here. 5 cents there. That was the job of a nickel, after all. To be spent and replaced. Used and ignored. But amidst that ocean of ordinary, a ripple occurred. A single die, one of the engraved metal cylinders used to stamp the design onto blank planchets, was different. It bore the wrong reverse. It wasn't supposed to be used in 1992. But it was. That little mistake, seemingly so minor, just a mismatch in die types, would go on to create a coin that would puzzle, then excite, then completely electrify collectors. This was no ordinary Jefferson nickel. It still bore the same classic features: Jefferson's profile on the obverse, his stately home, Monticello, on the reverse. The inscriptions were the same: "In God We Trust, Liberty, the year 1992. But one detail, the spacing and design of Monticello's steps, gave it away. This was a transitional reverse die. One that had technically been retired, phased out in favor of an updated version. Yet here it was, mysteriously paired with a 1992 obverse, and this wasn't some crude strike either. Far from it, this particular coin, when it finally surfaced years later, was nothing short of immaculate. Not only had it avoided the wear and tear of circulation, it had somehow emerged in pristine condition. A miracle considering that nearly every coin meant for commerce picks up dings, scratches, or subtle blemishes almost immediately. But not this one. This one was special. When collectors talk about the ultimate Jefferson nickels, they talk about full steps. It's a term that might sound strange to outsiders, but among numismatists, it's a badge of honor. Full steps refers to the clarity and sharpness of the steps at the base of Monticello on the reverse side of the coin. Most nickels show worn or mushy steps, even straight from the mint. But full steps. That means perfection. It means every single step is visible, uninterrupted, and sharply defined, and this 1992 nickel. It had full steps. Not just that, it was graded mint state 68, an astoundingly high grade that suggests an almost flawless strike and preservation. Very few nickels ever achieve that level of perfection, and those that do are instantly elevated to elite status, but it wasn't just its condition that made this coin the stuff of legend. It was the combination of factors: the transitional reverse design, the perfect full steps, the high grade, and the timing. You see, by the time this coin was discovered, many collectors had stopped looking at 1,992 nickels altogether. They were considered modern. Common. Nothing to see here. Which made this find all the more extraordinary. The coin was submitted for grading and authentication by experts. Specialists analyzed the reverse hub type, scrutinized the steps, the strike, the luster, and the fields. When the results came back, they were clear: this wasn't just rare, it might be unique. That kind of uniqueness triggers something in the collecting world. A hunt. A fever. Word began to spread. Forums lit up. Dealers pulled out their 1992 rolls. Coin shows suddenly had collectors whispering about Jefferson nickels instead of Morgan dollars. Everyone wanted to know, could there be more? Was this a one-of-a-kind fluke or the first of a hidden handful waiting to be found? But nothing else surfaced, not like this one. And so, the legend of the 1992 transitional reverse full steps nickel began to take shape. Like a puzzle piece that didn't seem to fit, until it did. Like a song you've heard 1,000 times, only to suddenly realize you missed one perfect note buried inside. Eventually, the coin made its way to auction. And the whispers turned into roars. Collectors knew what they were looking at now. A mint error? Yes. A design anomaly? Certainly. But above all, a one-in-a-million survivor. Bidders came ready. Some were veterans of the scene, people who had chased rare nickels their entire lives. Others were newer, eyes wide with anticipation, knowing this could be their only shot at something this monumental. The opening bid was respectful. Then came another. And another. The numbers climbed. $10,000. $25,000. Then a pause, before someone entered the fray with a $50,000 bid that turned heads. But it didn't stop there. The final moments of the auction felt like a symphony. Each bid a rising note, each pause a breath held collectively by everyone watching. There was drama. There was tension. And there was admiration, for the coin, for its story, for what it represented, and when the final bid hit, there was silence. A moment to absorb it. A moment to realize what had just happened, that 1992 nickel, 5 cents of metal, had just sold $4,103,000. That's not a typo. That's not a dream. That's the value of rarity, of perfection, of timing. That's the value of a story etched into metal and preserved against all odds. Up next, the 1994 5-cent coin. It's funny how the smallest, most unassuming things often end up with the most incredible stories. A coin, light as air, slipped into a pocket, tossed into a change jar, forgotten in glove compartments. Who would ever guess it might be worth more than a car? More than some houses? The 1994 Jefferson nickel is that kind of coin. It's not just a relic of American currency, it's a quiet witness to a moment in time, and somehow, it holds a mystery that's only grown stronger with the years. 1994 was a peculiar year. America was riding the waves of the Clinton administration, tech was beginning to boom, and families across the country were still using dial-up internet and blockbuster video cards. It was a transitional time, caught between the analog comfort of the past and the digital whirlwind that was fast approaching. And somewhere in all of that, while headlines captured political debates and pop culture shifts, the U.S. Mint continued its silent, steady work. Day in, day out, presses hammered blank planchets into nickels at blinding speeds. Jefferson's face, etched with the same proud gaze since 1938, was struck into millions of coins with mechanical precision. His beloved Monticello, sturdy and serene, graced the back. For most, the 1994 nickel was just part of life's background noise. An errand runner. A soda buyer. A paperweight in the pocket, but among those millions, something different emerged. It's unclear exactly when it happened or how. Was it a new die, unused and razor-sharp, installed early in the day by a meticulous mint worker? Was it a perfect alignment? A fluke? Whatever it was, one coin came off that press with an unmistakable brilliance. It bore the familiar image of Jefferson, yes, but it had a luster, a precision, a depth to it that others simply didn't have. This coin didn't end up in circulation. That much we know. It never slid across a gas station counter or got wedged between sofa cushions. It somehow avoided the wear and tear that erodes millions of nickels within weeks of use. It remained untouched. Preserved. Almost waiting to be discovered. Years passed. The economy shifted. Y2K came and went. Smartphones replaced landlines. And still, somewhere, this coin was hiding, until one day, it surfaced. The coin wasn't in a vault. It wasn't in a sealed collection or tucked away with a note saying, valuable. It was in a bulk bag of common change, sold by weight at a coin show. A mixed mess of metal, passed over by thousands. But someone, maybe an experienced eye or a curious amateur, sifted through it, and paused. The nickel shimmered differently. Under bright light, it popped. It felt crisper. Cleaner. There was something in its polish, its detail, that demanded attention. Out came the magnifying glass. The loop. The quiet moment where time slows down and everything hinges on a few millimeters of raised metal. There they were, the steps. The full steps. This isn't just numismatic jargon. Full steps is a term that transforms a common nickel into a gem. It means that the architectural steps on Monticello, tiny as they are completely visible. Not smudged. Not worn. But perfect. These steps are hard to find even on proof coins, let alone circulation strikes, but this coin had them. All of them. Perfectly formed, unbroken, razor sharp. Its finder knew instantly that this was no average nickel. This wasn't even just a well-preserved one. This was special. The kind of coin people dream of discovering. They did what any serious collector would do, they sent it in for grading. Now, the grading process is like sending your coin through an X-ray of history and detail. Professionals analyze the strike, luster, contact marks, and yes, those all-important full steps. It's more than technical. It's an art. And for high-end coins, every grade point could mean thousands of dollars gained or lost. Weeks passed. And then, the result arrived. MS 68 full steps, that score alone was breathtaking. Mint State 68 is nearly flawless. It's a whisper away from perfection. Combine that with full steps. That combination for a 1994 nickel was virtually unheard of. Most never made it past MS 65. The records showed it. This coin was at the top of its class. Word began to spread in tight collector circles. Forums buzzed. Coin show whispers turned into excited chatter. Dealers dug out their 1994 nickels, searching for a twin. But none appeared. This was a standout. Collectors know how rare that is. How singular. Not all rarity is about mintage numbers. Sometimes, it's about condition, flawless condition. Because even if 160 million nickels were made that year, how many survived untouched? How many were struck with such precision? How many retained all 6 steps of Monticello? The answer, 1. As far as anyone could tell, when this coin made its way to the auction block, it wasn't met with fireworks or headlines, but it didn't need them. It carried its own weight. The silence around it was electric. The kind that only exists when something truly rare is about to change hands, and then came the final moment. The hammer fell. $87,000. Why? Because of a miracle in timing, in mechanics, in preservation. Because of luck. Because of curiosity. Because someone cared enough to look closely when no one else did. That's the magic of coins. They're time travelers. They carry not just the marks of a mint, but the echoes of their journey, or, in this case, the story of not having a journey. Of waiting quietly to be seen. To be appreciated. To finally be understood. The 2008 5-cent coin may seem like an unremarkable piece of currency to the casual observer. But beneath its modest nickel-clad surface lies a story shaped by history, circumstance, and extraordinary survival, a story that bridges turbulent economics, numismatic rarity, and the subtle beauty of the overlooked. To understand this coin's significance, we need to go back to that turbulent year. The global economy was unraveling. Banks that once represented the pinnacle of financial stability were folding. People were losing homes, jobs, and savings, and uncertainty clouded the future. America was in flux, politically, economically, socially. It was a time when every penny mattered, and coins were the last thing on most people's minds, yet even in times of crisis, the U.S. Mint carried on. In 2008, it produced over 640 million nickels across its Philadelphia and Denver facilities. These coins passed from hand to hand, exchanged for coffee, bus rides, groceries, or tucked into drawers, largely ignored. They were tools of commerce, functional, forgettable, but as history has shown, it's often in the most forgettable places that treasures hide. The Jefferson nickel, by then, had already gone through significant transformations. After decades with a profile portrait and classic Monticello on the reverse, it underwent redesigns in the early 2000s, commemorating Lewis and Clark's expedition. By 2006, a new design had emerged, one that placed a bold, forward-facing Jefferson on the obverse. For many collectors, this wasn't just a design change, it was a reimagining of a historical figure. Jefferson's handwritten "Liberty" signature and his direct gaze created a personal, almost intimate connection with anyone holding the coin. On the reverse, Monticello returned, rendered with clarity and balance. The coin stood as both a tribute and a continuation of American iconography. Still, despite the design, the nickel was just another coin to most. Millions were struck and dispersed. Few paid any attention. That is, until one coin broke the pattern. It began with a glint, an unusual shimmer as a roll of nickels was sorted by an amateur collector. The light bounced differently. Upon closer inspection, the fields appeared almost mirror-like. The relief was crisp, immaculate. Not a single bag mark. Not a scratch. It seemed untouched by the chaos of daily transactions. The collector, sensing something rare, sent the coin off to a third-party grading service. The verdict: Mint State 69. MS 69. A score almost never awarded to standard circulation coins, particularly nickels. Such a grade placed the coin among the rarest of modern issues. Coins destined for commerce often endure rough treatment. They're bagged in bulk, poured into hoppers, counted by machines, and handled by countless hands. To escape this process unscathed is statistically improbable. For a 2008 nickel to reach MS-69 is akin to a feather falling through a thunderstorm and landing undisturbed on a pillow, speculation surged. Some believed the coin was part of an early strike batch from freshly polished dies. Others theorized it had been carefully preserved by someone at the mint. There were even whispers of a test strike mistakenly released into circulation. No concrete evidence surfaced. The coin's origin remained as mysterious as its condition. Population reports backed its rarity. No others from 2008 had reached such a high grade. The major grading services confirmed that this coin was likely unique. And in the world of numismatics, uniqueness is everything. Collectors began combing through rolls of 2008 nickels. Dealers revisited old stock. But none came close. This one stood apart, not due to age, not because of metal content, but because of flawless preservation. When it finally went to auction, it attracted not just coin collectors, but investors, historians, and enthusiasts eager to own a slice of modern numismatic legend. The energy was electric. For a coin that had been worth just 5 cents, the attention was monumental. Bids climbed steadily, then spiked. The final figure? Let's just say it was the kind of price that forces people to look twice at their pocket change. The type of sale that makes headlines and redefines what's possible in modern coin collecting. From the wreckage of a financial crisis came a symbol of endurance. This single nickel, unnoticed by the masses, became an icon for rarity, for resilience, and for the quiet magic of overlooked details that in the years since, its legend has grown. It's been featured in collector forums, auction catalogs, and magazine spreads. Its story is told to new collectors as a beacon of hope, that somewhere, out there, another could exist, and every day, more people search. They flip through rolls, examine change, scrutinize the luster of an ordinary nickel, wondering, could lightning strike twice? That's the story of the 2008 5-cent coin, not just metal and design, but a narrative of chance, care, and the thrill of discovery. A tiny monument to the extraordinary, hiding in plain sight. So the next time a coin passes through your hands, take a moment. Look closer. Because the extraordinary often arrives quietly, and sometimes, it's no bigger than a nickel.